Hey y'all, it's Plowboy's Ghost Channel. I have a little sit down talk with y'all in the camper out of this cold wind today. Touch on a subject that maybe I have kind of alluded to before concerning famous, infamous, notorious, however you want to look at them, outlaws. Why? And I've had a couple of people, kind of comment here along the way, and I've seen a couple of videos where people really kind of get upset that people like Billy the Kid are revered, idolized, looked up to, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not saying that I do any of those things, I guess, but I guess more to the point, I want to kind of explain to those people, if they happen to watch this, what the attraction is for me, why I like the story of Billy the Kid, the character, as far as what we know to be true, but as I've heard it, as I understand it to be true. And it's not for the violence. It's not for the body count. It's not for, and what, some of these things we don't even really know all there is to know about it. We know some of them to be true, but we don't know all of them. We may not know all of them, of the people that were killed in this, but I guess for me, what it comes down to with the story of Billy the Kid, I don't really identify with him as much because I'm a lot older than he was at the end of his life. And I guess what appeals to me the most is that this boy was as young as he was, as green as he was, and I've run with some rough people in my life. I've been friends with people who have done time in prison for violent stuff and various other things. But, I've never been in that category myself. But however, I kind of understand some of the rougher side of life, some of the rougher people in life, and maybe I'm like them, maybe I'm not, I don't know. I do know this, though, that for Billy to be as young as he was, even at the very end of his life, not just, throughout the Lincoln County War, he was someone with an incredible amount of grit and fortitude. He was loyal to a fault, probably. At least that's the way I take him to be. He chose a side and he stuck to it. He was willing to do what it took to ensure his own survival and the survival of who he considered to be his friends or his side. And you can. There was an old movie. Was it a book or a movie? There was an old movie. There's been a whole lot of movies about Billy the Kid. The Boy Bandit. He wasn't really a bandit. Did he ever did he ever mask his face and rob anybody? Not to my knowledge. He wasn't a train robber, a bank robber. I don't know of anyone who he committed an armed robbery against. It seems to me like some of the earlier parts of his life, some of the things that got him in trouble is, once again, this is as far as I understand it, and I don't know how much of it is solid, concrete, historically true information, and how much of it's just hearsay, but to my knowledge, he committed acts of what pretty much amounted to petty theft in the beginning. Of course, now later on, he liberated some livestock. He freed them from bondage, however you want to look at it. Whether it was horses or cattle. We know it was horses. I assume it was cattle too. And I probably need to brush up before I do a video on this. But I really want to explain why I think, as much as I do, of Henry Antrim. Henry McCarty, of Henry McCarty, Billy the Kid. And that's because the boy wasn't scared, he wasn't scared to stand up for himself, to take action. As even in the year 2020 stupid that we live in right now, where the whole world has gone completely apeshit, we see all kind of transgressions of various levels of government that are, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, injurious, dangerous to our security, to our, even all the way right down to us as individuals. Some of the things they do and some of the things that the laws they uphold are actually injurious and put us in jeopardy. Some of it, I think, is downright suicidal. And, for Billy in his day, in the Lincoln County War, we didn't just have corrupt cops who were doing stuff, and corrupt politicians and community leaders and whatever who were doing things, that everybody kind of knew was probably going on or theorized was going on behind their backs. We have people commissioning and taking up arms to go and kill other people, and doing it under the color of the law, which that still takes place today, but on, in a different way for the most part. And, a person can say, well, what about the escape from the Lincoln County Jail, and the killing of Ollinger and Bell? If I'm not mistaken, Billy did express regret at the death of Bell. But I don't believe he regretted one bit the killing of Ollinger. And based on, and I don't mean just on Emilio Estevez's portrayal, but I'm talking about what little I've read and what little I understand to be true of the relationship between Bob Ollinger leading up to that day and Billy. I believe he was probably well satisfied with emptying shotgun barrels into him and ending him. I believe he was, and I from what I understand, I don't blame him one bit. You can call that murder. Well, you can also call that survival. Billy lived in a time, we live in a time too, where we delegate certain powers to government on various levels. And they are in a way in contract with us to carry out, certain duties, to serve the public trust, to ensure domestic tranquility and secure our rights. When they don't do that, when they violate that contract and they actually become injurious, when they become dangerous to our rights, to our very lives and our own existence, our national security or whatever, then we are, maintaining that level of power delegation to them is actually a suicidal compact on our part. That's lunacy. Excuse me. Well, Billy didn't have no such, I don't know. He saw it for what it was, and it was probably purely a matter of survival. In a lot of cases, I don't think he probably had any idea that, 100 plus years later, we'd be talking about him, or, 140, whatever, that we'd be talking about him or anything that he did or anything like that. He was just trying to live day to day the best way he could. And, to borrow a phrase from Waylon Jennings, that's just a little bit more than the law would allow. Well, when the law was corrupt as hell, dangerous, murderous, thieving, well, and I kind of understand. Y'all, there are, throughout history, there are plenty of cases, there are plenty of times, there are examples, and a lot of people within our own government, within our own society would like to erase the memory, would like to erase the truth of what happens when good people stand up for themselves, even against bad governance. That's why you'll find in my woodpile plenty of ancestry that goes back in both wars of independence on this continent, 1776 and 1861. Fought for independence, fought against what they saw as tyranny. And in almost every case, just like in Billy the Kid's time in the Lincoln County War, when you have official, government-sanctioned thievery, murder, it without fail, standing up for what's right will get you labeled. Certain bad labels like outlaw, traitor, in some cases, murderer, and even rebel. So I guess when it comes down to it, why I think so highly of what I know of Billy the Kid is that when it came down to it, he wasn't afraid of labels. He did what it took to survive. He stood up for himself. And for all of the people who were killed in the Lincoln County War, you can't tell me that he was wrong to feel like something was bad out of whack, that he would be the one who would be tried and sentenced. You know, he didn't kill all of the people in the Lincoln County War. And a lot of them that did do a lot of the murdering and killing were people wearing badges and people holding office. There really ain't a lot of difference in what makes a murderer today and what makes a murderer then, but you can't, you know, who controls the label is the issue. It's the question. And I don't think of Billy the Kid as a murderer. He sure wasn't no boy bandit. I think of him as a gritty survivor who probably understood what it was like to go through hell and to try to keep breathing. Can't blame a man for that, no matter how young he is. So that's my take. Even though he was a very young person, there are plenty of things about him that I admire, just of what I know of him. So anyway, maybe there's an explanation. Maybe that's boring as hell to watch. I don't know. We'll talk to y'all later. Thanks for watching.